Hey everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Luca Bandinelli and I am a program manager in the OneDrive SharePoint team. And
my name is Loki Mayberg. Thank you, Luca. I'm a feature PM on the Teams platform team. Thanks, Luca.
Cool. So what are we talking today about? So today we are talking about building Teams application using SharePoint framework. And if you think about the agenda for today's session is, we are going to talk about SharePoint framework. We are trying to understand, we'll talk about what SharePoint framework is, what does it do for you as a developer if you want to develop a solution for the Microsoft 365 ecosystem and primarily for SharePoint and Teams. Then we'll talk about Teams tabs and personal apps, which is the basic kind of extensibility that you can use SharePoint framework to build a solution for. We will also talk about both the messaging extensions, and we will see how much SharePoint framework can help you building and interact with this solution. Then we will talk about store, and we'll talk about the evolution of Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code add-ons that Teams recently announced for being able to build a solution with Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code in Teams. So what is the SharePoint framework, you will ask? SharePoint framework is a framework that you can use to build and extend modern experiences in SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. It's a JavaScript-based framework, which means that you can build your solution by just knowing JavaScript and TypeScript and your favorite rendering framework. You can use Angular, you can use React, you can use no rendering framework and just stick with JavaScript and TypeScript. And then you can build widgets and components that you will be able to use to extend SharePoint by creating web parts, app pages, or bottom and top extensions. Or in Teams, you can use that in order to build custom tabs and build personal apps. SharePoint framework is pretty young solution. It was built and was announced in 2016, but from that time, it has been grown extremely well and very much. And right now we have seen at 125% growth year over year. And just like last year, it was amazing. We had more than 100% growth. And we have had 14 major releases in a little bit less than 4 years. So, I mean, amazing framework, has been used a lot by the community, has been used a lot by you guys. And for that, it's great. And the success of SharePoint framework was so huge that made us using that not only in SharePoint, but also in Teams. So now you can use Teams, you can use SharePoint framework to go to Teams and build personal apps and Teams tab. And of course, Teams has the ability to do more than that. When you build a solution for Teams, sure, you can use that to build a tab, but you can also use that to build a bot or to have messaging extensions and to be able to surface adaptive card, to be able to have your solution be comprehensive across all the features and functionality that Teams provide to you. And I don't know, Loki, am I missing anything here that it would be very important for our audience to understand?
Sure. I mean, all that I can say is that I'm sure if you combed through Teams, you'll notice some points inside of Teams where there isn't any extensibility today. And all I can say is that we're heads down, making sure to add more extensibility points inside of Teams. So just stay tuned for more information down the road.
Great. And one of the great things that you can do by using SharePoint framework and develop on top of Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft Teams is that the framework gives you the ability to connect to all your web APIs and all your external data and surface this data in Teams and SharePoint. And this is great thanks to the power that the framework provides to you through Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Another great things about SharePoint framework is the adoption in the community. You can see that through the Microsoft 365 Partner in Practice, we have a huge amount of content that you as a developer can consume, from samples that you can find in GitHub and in other forums, to a rich amount of documentation you can find on docs.microsoft.com, tutorials that you can find on YouTube, as well as the ability to connect with the great community of developers that day by day are using SharePoint framework in order to develop solution on top of SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. So simply go to aka.ms/M365PNP, start from there, and you will be able to interact with all these great resources that we just mentioned. So again, what SharePoint framework gives to you, as I was mentioning before, it gives you the ability to build solutions and widgets on top of Microsoft Teams and Microsoft SharePoint. You can use this kind of framework in order to surface the data that can live in your application, but also gives you the ability to connect this data that normally lives in files or SharePoint list, or you can basically, or even other systems that are exposed through APIs. And you can use the power of Microsoft Graph and the power of Azure and the authentication that that provides in order to leverage these API, connect with your data, and surface this data on top of your solution by having a Teams tab that you can use in order to build that. So with that said, let's now go to the demo and see how you can build a Teams tab solution using SharePoint framework. My environment is already set up over here, and if you want to know what I did, I basically follow this great tutorial that is available on docs.microsoft.com. It will tell you how to prepare the environment, which tool to install, and it also gives you a step-by-step tutorial to create your first Teams tab using SharePoint framework. This one is a little bit more advanced, and it's basically a solution that it's also available in GitHub from the community, and we'll provide the link later at the end of this presentation. But for now on, basically this is what I followed, and this is what I am doing right now. I built my solution. I am testing my solution using GulpServe. I feel good. Happy. So the first thing that I want to do now is to be sure that I'm targeting the right environment. And as I was saying before, this solution will target both SharePoint and Teams. And in order for me to do that, what I do, I go to the one of the configuration files of the solution itself. And here there is this supported host variable that I can use to basically instruct the system where I want to show up this component. And I want, for this example, I want to use a SharePoint full page. I also want to use that as a web part, and I want to use that as a Teams personal app. By me specifying this option, I'm basically telling the system that it can generate and automatically create manifest for both the SharePoint catalog as well as the Teams LOB catalog. This part of the demo is primarily for enterprise developers that they want to target directly enterprises or customers. We'll talk about store later. So once I've done that, I save my project, my file. I go back to PowerShell. I can successfully verify that the file was saved. I stop gulp. I bundle the solution. This will take a little bit, but basically what it does is ensure that everything is okay and create the bundle that then will be packaged so that I can deploy that in my tenancy in the catalogs. Perfect. Now I create the solution by running package solution. This is quite fast, so it should not take too much, which it didn't. So now I open my file browser to locate the package that was created with the command. Over here, solutions. Here, this is the package. This is the one that I want to deploy to my environment. So now I go back to my environment and I locate the app catalog through the SharePoint tenant administration. From here, I can drag and drop the package. The system now recognizes that this is a valid package. It starts parsing the manifest and gives me some kind of initial information. For example, it tells me that all the files are part of the package and they will be served by SharePoint Online and Microsoft 365 CDN if and were enabled in the tenancy. And then I want to make this available to the entire organization. So no further attention is needed from the administrator himself or herself. So I deploy was smooth, no error. Before going to Teams, let's verify that this works in SharePoint. I go to one of my team sites, I refresh, and I edit my page. I open the picker. I can find my lead solution, and perfect, it works. Publish, no problem whatsoever. Here's my component showing exactly what I want to show. So back to the app catalog. Now what I want to do, I want to surface that in Teams. And the way I do that, I basically go here to the ribbon, and I have the Sync to Teams option that when I select one of the packages that are part of my app catalog, if the components inside of the package also target Teams, just like I did before with this component by specifying this option in my supported host, then this command option is now enabled in the app catalog. So now I click Sync to Teams, and what Sync to Teams does is basically creating the manifest in the Teams LOB catalog. So this is done, quick, no problems whatsoever. Now go back here to the Teams. I click on Apps, and I can see that my Leads app is available here. And because it is an app available in the catalog, I can apply all the governance functionalities and policies that the Teams Admin Center provides for applications. So here I can see all my applications available, or all the applications that I can enable in my tenancy, or they're already available in my tenancy. I search for Leads, and here it is. I can find my Leads application that you can see is SharePoint Framework. And this solution can now be, this Teams tab can now be managed and assign policies. So for example, you can say that I want this to be pre-pinned inside my left rail in Team to a specific set of users. Now let's see if it works. I go back to Teams. I go here. I search for Leads. I find Leads. I can add that. And as you can see, it pins over here, and voila, the experience is very much the same as I have in my SharePoint environment. You can use Microsoft SharePoint and SharePoint Framework in order to power great solution with Microsoft Teams. And the couple of things that I want to recap here, which I think is important for you to understand. So when you build a solution with SharePoint Framework for Microsoft Teams, you can use that by building a solution as a Teams tab, for a chat tab, as well as a personal app. And you can do both. So the same solution can surface for both kind of scenarios. Important to mention that different kind of solution have different kind of capabilities and functionality. So for example, if you want to have a configuration experience, remember, you can only have that configuration experience in a Teams tab. Personal app don't have configuration experience. I know that we are working very, very hard to handle that, but right now is not there yet. So keep that in mind. So that's one thing. The other important thing that I want to remember is that one of the greatest things about SharePoint Framework and the entire Microsoft 365 platform is that you do not have to think about hosting your solution. The solution will be hosted in Microsoft 365. As part of the packaging process, as we have seen in the demo, you will be able to include all the files in the package and put the package in the Microsoft 365 and SharePoint app catalog. And from there, all the file will be served in your tab thanks to the power of SharePoint. That provided great functionality and application lifecycle management capabilities to tenant administrators. And then, again, very important to mention, this is not just for the web platform. This solution will fully work on mobile as well as the Teams rich client, giving you the ability to build solutions that can be consumed across all of these platforms and devices. So with that said, let me hand this back to Loki that will talk about new and other functionalities that we are working on.
Awesome. Thanks, Luca. And this is by far the most favorite part for me. I love talking about things that we've been working on. So I'm excited to talk about something we've been working on, and that's task modules that can host the SharePoint framework apps. So what are task modules? Task modules are just dialogues that you can open up inside of Teams from a bot, a messaging extension, or even in a tab. So the word task module implies that for the end user, they're designed to kick off and start and complete small little task workflows. So you'll see off to the right, all that I'm doing in that screenshot there is I'm composing a to-do list that I'm going to publish to my channel for me and my team members to collaborate on. Some other examples of where you can use a task module, you could probably find and share SharePoint news articles with your team to discuss. And also, the task module experience is used quite heavily in the assignments app, which is used extensively in classrooms. And so teachers use the task module to create and post assignments to the class to work on. So like tabs and personal apps, the full Teams context will be available to you inside of task modules. So what that means is you get to truly tailor the experience depending on the team or channel that you're running the task module inside of. Also, you're going to have full availability of the SDK. And like I said, if you're going to be invoking these task modules from bots, the SDK is going to be super useful to you when you need to communicate back and forth with your bot and to tailor the experience to the end user. The way that we're achieving this today is with a new component type inside of the SharePoint Yeoman generator. And that component type also surfaces in the URL. And I will be showing off exactly what I mean by this new component type in the demo that's coming shortly. And finally, why would you want to use the SharePoint framework inside of task modules? Well, it's the same benefit you got in the past, and that is hosting is free because that's handled by SharePoint. Authentication just works out of the box, and all Graph API access is just handled directly by SharePoint. So it's a really great solution for kickstarting a Teams app that is fast on time to delivery and cheap in terms of cost as well. So without further ado, I'm going to drop into a demo and show you exactly how task modules work today. Task modules are dialogues that you can open up from your bot, messaging extension, or even from a tab. So let me show you a quick demo of an existing messaging extension. This messaging extension is called Praise. I'm going to open this up, and you'll see this task module that I just opened up. Inside of this task module, I'm just running HTML and CSS, so that's what all of this content is. I'm going to just select Problem Solver, and I'm going to send some praise to this user. And I'm going to give them praise for integrating the SharePoint framework with task modules. I'm going to click Send. And voila, the results are posted back to the channel. So now let me show you what a task module would look like if I were to embed a SharePoint framework web part inside of that experience. I'm going to go over to my sample app called Contoso Leads. Click that. And voila, inside is my SharePoint framework sample app running inside of a task module. If I wanted to, I could also click on one of these opportunities and post the results back to the channel, just like I showed you for the Praise application. So what did I have to do to get my SharePoint framework application running inside of a task module? Well, let's take a look at that now. So to get started, I started with the Getting Started docs for Node.js and App Studio. You can just head over to the Teams documentation and clone this code and get it all set up and running. That should be a pretty good base to get you started. Once you've gone through this docs and you've got everything set up, the next thing you want to do is you want to register a messaging extension for your bot. So let's do that right now. I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to head over to App Studio. I'm going to find my Hello World app, and I'm going to head over to messaging extensions. So remember, messaging extensions are powered by a bot. So you'll see my bot is registered here to this messaging extension. And you see that I've added a command to my messaging extension. This command is the command that gets executed when I click on the messaging extension. So let's look at the code that runs when I actually click on the messaging extension. So let's head over to the code now. Inside of that sample Hello World application, you're going to find a file called messaging extensions. Inside of the messaging extensions JS file, I have connected this function called onCompose extension fetch task. This is the function that gets executed when I click on the messaging extension. all that this function is doing is I'm just responding with a very basic task info object. And that task info object just sets the title, size, and URL of the task module. So let's talk a little bit about the URL. Now, I can't just embed the SharePoint framework URLs that you might be used to inside of Teams. They're slightly different for task modules. However, that difference is quite small. So let's go look at the difference. I'm going to head over here. So this is the URL that you would be used to by now for SharePoint framework web parts running inside of Teams. And this is the URL for task modules inside of Teams. You'll notice that they're very, very similar. The only difference is that up until this point, we've been using the Teams hosted app.aspx file to embed our SharePoint framework web parts inside of Teams. For task modules, it's slightly different. For task modules, we're using the Teams task hosted app.aspx file. So all you have to do is make sure that you've switched over to this new hosted frame that we're using to embed the application. And in messaging extensions, just make sure that that's what you're returning as your task module URL instead. Assuming you've changed it over, then this is all you need to have this URL opened up inside of a task module inside of Teams. So just once again, let's look at that real quick. And voila, that's the URL running inside of Teams. Now, what would happen if I clicked on this and I wanted to post the results back to the channel, or I wanted to do something with the results, similar to what you saw me do earlier with the praise messaging extension? Well, I'm not going to show you that today, but I'll show you how to get started on that. You just head over to the Using Task Modules for Microsoft Teams Bots documentation. And in here, there's going to be a section called Submitting the Results of a Task Module. Essentially, inside of the task module, once I click on one of those opportunities in the leads application, I'm going to run a function called submit task. Submit task basically posts the results back to my bot. And in my bot, I handle the response and decide what I want to do with it. So if I wanted to post the results back to a channel, I would then take the results from submit task and I would post the results back to the channel. And that's it for task modules inside of Teams. This is a few weeks away. We're working hard on getting this out to production so that you can start using your SharePoint framework web parts in from bots or messaging extensions, or even if you wanted to open up a dialog from a tab, you'd be able to do so. So looking forward to what everyone's going to build.
That was great. Thanks a lot. So let's move forward and talk about new investments, and we'll keep on this kind of trend of giving you news of things that don't exist yet, but they are coming. And let's talk about Store. And Store is a very important thing. Since the time we announced the SharePoint framework, the usage has been exponentially high and very fantastic from the adoption that we got from the community. But SharePoint framework today for both SharePoint and Teams is uniquely available through Enterprise. So for you, in order to build a solution and have this solution be adopted by a tenant or by a company, you either have to have a relationship with the company, or you have to be an employee or a consultant of the company itself and build that solution for that company. Because there is no Store solution for SharePoint framework as per now, but they're coming. So right now, we are happy to announce that very soon, by in the next coming month, let's put it this way, because I don't want to say something that then if it's not really that, you will basically point at me and say, see, this guy not saying something true. So let's give me a little bit of wiggling room. And let's say that in a couple of months, we will be able to start supporting SharePoint framework solution through the Store. That means that you as a developer, you will be able to use Partner Center, which is the tool that you're using today to submit solution in the Microsoft Store, to create and submit solutions that are based using SharePoint framework for SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. Once the solution is there, the tenant administrator will have a full experience. So the tenant administrator will be able to go browse and acquire the solution from the store and make that solution available in SharePoint or SharePoint and Teams. The end user will only be able to discover this content, but because of the SharePoint framework solutions needs to be approved by the administrators in order to give the ability, for example, to access external web APIs. The end users, once he or she finds the solution, will be able to notify that that solution is available so the administrators can go and collect that solution. Once this solution is available, we will be able to do all the right synchronization process between SharePoint, the store, and the Microsoft Teams to make the solution available in Microsoft Teams as well, when the solution also can surface in Teams. And how do you do that? We saw in the demo a couple of demos ago. You will be able to do that exactly the same way. While you're building your solution, you will be able to specify if the solution is available for SharePoint or Teams or both. And with this first step of integration of SharePoint framework with the store, we are supporting three types of solutions. We are supporting solutions that are available for SharePoint pages. We are supporting solutions that will be available on SharePoint pages and Teams. And we are supporting Teams tab solution for SharePoint pages. This is also very important things, because right now we are also able to use Teams tab solutions that were built for Teams in SharePoint pages as a web part as well as a full app page. And you as a Teams tab developer, you can easily do that by specifying the scope of your solution in the Teams manifest. There has been introduced very recently some kind of functionalities that you can use that in order to specify if your solution is also available in SharePoint and which kind of availability it has. It's as a web part or as an app pages. And before moving to the demo, let me basically thank a lot of our partners that have spent a lot of time and they invested a lot amount of time and resources to help us being able to bring these capabilities and functionalities to you. So these partners have worked with us at the very early beginning of the stage as these functionalities in order to be sure that we are able to surface a SharePoint framework solution through the store, and in order to be able to build the right kind of acquiring experience for both administrators and end users. And the same also apply for Teams tab solution in SharePoint. We have worked with some partners at the very beginning in order to ensure that their solution were showing in a great way both in SharePoint and in Teams. And these partners have been able to help us in order to build the right kind of functionalities and capabilities behind that in order to have a great experience of a Teams tab solution showing in SharePoint. This partner very, very likely will be the first partners that will be able to surface Teams tab solution in SharePoint through the store, which is, again, thank you very much for your dedication, and thank you very much for the time you guys gave to us in order to be sure that we are building these kind of solutions for you. So without further notice, let's go and take a look at a couple of things. We will take a look first on how, as you as a developer, can use Partner Center to publish a SharePoint framework solution on the store. And as a tenant admin, we will see then how you can go and from SharePoint App Catalog, browse the store, find a solution, acquire that solution and put that solution in your tenancy, and then make that solution available in SharePoint and Teams.
I'm now administrator, and I want to acquire the solution that was published through Partner Center on my tenancy. So I'm back to the app catalog. And just like anything else that you can install from the store in SharePoint, I go to Site Contents. And then from Site Content, I can go to New App, select SharePoint Store. And here from SharePoint Store, once the information comes down and loads, I can go to Find an App and search for Lists. Now I can find my application over here. So select the application. I click add it, and you will see that we have a very similar experience to the one we had when I uploaded this solution on the Enterprise Application Catalog. I have the same kind of message over here. The format is slightly different to accommodate the store information and Canvas, but the information is same as here. I can still see that everything on the solution is part of the solution itself, including all the file, and the file will be served from the SharePoint Online and Microsoft 365 CDN were enabled. I can make the solution available everywhere, and I can deploy. And once I click deploy, the information gets added to the app catalog, and I go back to the app catalog, and voila, I have exactly the same kind of experience that I had before when I was installing the application from the Enterprise Catalog. Now, this is a solution that is available both for SharePoint and Teams. So to make that available in Teams as well, I select the solution, go to Files, click on Sync to Teams, ensure that the synchronization process successfully ends. I go then to the Teams Admin Center, select on Manage Apps, and now if I search for my app, I can successfully find it. And there we have. Now the solution can be managed in Teams just like any other solutions, pinning on the left rail, as well as making that available for specific users on the tenancy as well.
Thanks, Luca. It was really cool to see those demos. One more thing, in the spirit of one more thing, I have one more thing to show you. Something that we're announcing at Build is we're announcing Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code add-ons for Teams. And so these add-ons are going to be great for you to get started to build Teams solutions inside of your favorite code editor. The Teams team and Luca's SharePoint team, we are in the early stages of extending these Visual Studio add-ons to support SharePoint Framework web parts. And so you're going to be able to go to Visual Studio Code and start a new SharePoint project just for Teams. And we're going to be bundling up all the cool stuff that Luca and I spoke about today into Visual Studio Code. So you can do all this cool stuff just from your favorite code editor. Okay, moving on to some housekeeping stuff. Just some housekeeping matters before we close out here. If there are any features that we didn't talk about today or any feature requests that you have, I highly encourage you to go to the user voice sites. That's where we collect feature requests. We have two user voice sites. We have one for the SharePoint dev platform, and we also have one for the Teams developer platform. So I highly encourage you to go to those sites and let us know what features you'd like to see us work on next. And then finally, let's talk about some of the sessions that you might want to consider. There's a bunch of sessions that are related to Teams development and SharePoint development that are going on all across Build this week. If you like what you saw today, but you want to go a little bit deeper into Teams apps, I highly recommend you check out the bottom one on some cool tips and tricks and really just a deep dive on building Teams solutions. And that's it for now. Over to you, Luca.
Thank you very much, guys, to be here. Thank you very much, Loki, to have spent this time with us. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We are working very, very hard to provide as much as possible the ability for you to build a great solution for SharePoint and Teams using SharePoint Framework. Thanks again. Enjoy these sessions and stay safe.
Can't wait to see what you guys build next. Bye.